Hey guys, how are you doing? I got caught up on some of the work I had, and well, not really, but that's what I'm going to tell everybody. I wanted to play. That's what it was. I dug out my Schwinn motorized bike moped thing. Help me name it. I gotta, yeah. Let's have get some names out there. What we should call this thing. Anyway, I was playing with that, cleaned the carb, and I added a couple things to it, and that kind of made some other stuff steamroll in my head. So I got a pile of stuff here to kind of point at and talk about, and I don't know, talk out loud as far as what my thoughts are, and probably none of it will come true. I'll go a totally different direction, but at least you'll see what my thought was at the time. So here we go. I guess we'll start with the old machine. I took it apart and painted up all the old gussets that were added later on. After I did my first road trip, it was a little flexible, so I wanted to stiffen things up, and I just added some more plates to it. Another one there, just to kind of stiffen things up. A little more gussets. I think I added another plate here, so I went over and just kind of painted that stuff up and cleaned the carb that was dirty. And then I was up in my attic and I found a pile of bicycle junk, and I dragged that down and came across the old style rechargeable light from like I think it's like the 60s, because of the look of the gauge on it. It's not a made in China kind of deal, you know. And I mounted the little generator for it, and on the front we just drilled a hole through it. This is a socket, and I'm not quite sure how this thing was ever supposed to mount to a handlebars with that configuration, but that's why I mounted a socket there with a bolt and just clamped onto it. And then we even ran a little wire to the back, and inside the light was sitting a little tail light for it. So now when I ride down the road, it's got front and rear lights on it. And yes, I just did get back from riding down the road. You have to, you know. She's good to go. She idles now, like she should. Cold right now. Kind of like lopes right along when it's warmed up. Right now she's kind of popping a little bit. Getting there. The other loud thump goes away when it warms up. You guys are going, yeah, sure it does. What we'll do is let that run for a second behind us. How's that? And we'll talk about these. These two guys are the ones that I picked up at yard sales and Craigslist to be the guts for the trike. And between these two guys and I think this thing, it's one of those Chinese scooters. It's 50 cc's. You know what? I think running in the background's annoying me. Shut up. Okay. Now what the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, this thing. I got it for $10, and I cleaned it up the best I could. Not putting any money into it, but just kind of going through it. And it was, you know, some kid's toy that sat forever. It normally was set up with a remote, so like your kid's putting around, you can go shut him off as he's driving out to the street. They lost the keys for all that, so I kind of bypassed all that stuff, and I just got it running. It's 49cc. It goes pretty good. Over 20, I'd say, you know, because it just the way it's set up, and plus this light doesn't weigh anything. But I was kind of impressed for what it has for such a small motor hauling me around. I'm, you know, just shy of 200 pounds. So my thinking is I put it on Craigslist. I'm not getting any bites on it, so I got $10 into it. So I think this is going to be what I want to cut apart. A couple of things I like about it is it has electric start and a kickstart, but it has electric start. So the fact that it has electric start means it has a charging system, so it'll charge your battery back up, so I could run all kinds of lights and everything on it too. The other thing is it has its own transmission, kind of like what I have on the other bike. If you ever watch the other videos, I kind of show how the pulley works in the back and changes its transmission. So underneath here, that kind of has the same scenario. You have a belt. It's a snowmobile setup. You know, you got two CVT transmissions, constant velocity, something. The pulleys change size. So that's already in here, so it gives you a bottom and a top end. The other part is I'm kind of thinking I'm going to try and register this thing as a moped. So that falls under the guidelines as being under 50 cc's for the drivetrain. The motor seems like it's all kind of in a fairly tight little package. It's not very large. I'd say it's probably, it stops, back of the trans stops right here. Front of motor stops there. I would say that's probably 24 inches long. Not even 20 inches long by, we can cut back on this thing with the exhaust and the air boxes and stuff too, but we'll say we'll go with it's a foot wide and not very tall. That whole package is looking like, I'd say to the top of the carburetor. Everything else is lower. I say everything else is like 8 inches. Top of the carb is maybe 11, 10 and a half. So here's what I'm thinking. One other thing, I want to use the rear as a jack shaft to power those two bike wheels that are on there. And the distance I have from one side to the other, to the outer points, is roughly 24 inches. I could probably scab something on one way or another, but I got to get sprockets on each end of that. And the wider part I can get it, but you got to working with what I have. And for this to kind of work right, I actually have to power one rim on the outside and one rim on the inside. So I just need 24 inches between those two sprockets. And I figured that that jack shaft will probably fit right down, right about here, and use the original setup as far as the rear wheels, how they're driven. And I'll copy some stuff off if I did off the other bike, but my thinking is this: the wheels, when the chain stops moving, the wheels just stay freewheeling. Like on that bike, it just rolls. It still rolls without the chain turning. Anyway, take my word for it. It just don't take my word for it. I heard you. Heard the chain. Don't believe me. But this guy, when you put power to it, when you stop, the bike just free flows. So you can let right off the throttle. It can be like silent. You can just like cruise up on stuff without making any noise. And you just give it a little shot and the bike just takes off again. I actually kind of like that setup. I don't like the engine braking. being on there. So, having said that, I want to use that motor. I'm kind of thinking down here somewhere. The rear end is going to be my jack shaft. I can play with my my sprockets to see what kind of RPM I want to get out of it. Also, the other thing that's good about having these wheels like this, I don't have a differential. So if I go to make a turn, the thing's going to want to scrub one of the two tires. Every time you make a turn, it's going to fight you. It won't want to make a good turn. But considering once you let off the power that both wheels freewheel, it's a posi when you're driving. It's going to drive both tires all the time, but when you let off, one can go faster than the other one and be able to make the turn. They're not locked together, is what I'm trying to say. So hopefully that'll work out. I think it might be a little funky if you're on power trying to make a turn, but we'll see. I'm thinking of how I want to run the seat. I think I'm going to do in between, one down and maybe one right behind it, right up on it. I got the two. Make it like a 2-up setup. And as far as the front ends are concerned, I have two. Of course, this bike is rough, to say the least. Definitely been out in the weather some. But what I'm thinking of doing is trying to make, out of the two front ends, because they have like two sets of tubes, is I think I want to make like a Springer front end for it, and probably have no front brake. I'll have two separate rear brakes on each wheel. I could brake, get ahead of myself, but if I have my left brake here, my right brake here, if I want to go make a sharp turn on the thing, I could just brake that one side wheel and it'll draw itself around. What they call that in muggies, steering brake. So kind of the same idea, but on a trike. So those are kind of my thoughts right now. Kind of, just talking to you guys as I'm making it up. What I like about that rim, I just noticed that one's got a lot bigger hub than that one. Looks like it might be a little stronger rim, maybe. And that should be the front wheel. I want to try to keep the weight down as much as possible, because that's greatly going to affect it. But my thinking is, if I can get lights on it under 50 cc's, why I can't just register it as a moped. I think the laws have changed that it doesn't really have to have pedal capacity for it to be considered a moped. I think it just has to be under 50 cc's, like a scooter or whatnot, which just goes under a different guideline. So that's going to be my thinking, or that's what I'm going to try and do. If anybody busts my balls, I'll just, act stupid. Say, look, it's under 50 cc's and you don't shift it, I'll have all the lights and everything working on it. Plus it'll be a 2-up, which will be pretty cool. Looking at it right now, I think I want to go a little wider than that, so I got to see what I can do on the rear end of getting that thing a little wider. But we'll get to it as we get to it. We'll just kind of, I think I want to get off with you guys here. I'm just going to start picking some of the skins off of that thing and get a better idea what's going to fit where. But this is kind of usually how it starts for me. I just drag all my crap together and start cutting stuff apart with a whiz wheel and see what we can come up with. So, alright guys, thanks for watching, and take care.